Hello, how are you? Doing all right? Hello, Shanley, how are you?
I'm good.
Good to hear. Hello, everybody. Good to see you all. Good to see you all. Trust that you are all okay and that you're enjoying the distanced learning that we are all doing, which is quite a novelty at this particular time at any rate. I do that, push that button. All right. Now we are going to be moving on in our understanding of the market model and our concept of elasticity. You will have noticed that I posted a link to the Nearpod lesson into the classroom. So what would be kind of cool, hello Brandon, what would be kind of cool is if you jump into the Nearpod, and I will do the present screen like so. I will jump into the Nearpod. Okay, so the code that you should have is LNGWR. LNGWR. All right, so that's the way the Nearpod works, and we know that as per normal, the code is always up here in the top left-hand corner. So as said, we're going to be continuing on in our discussion about elasticity, which is a major component of our understanding of the market model. It is going to be a topic that we're going to refer to a few times in the course. And, you know, it will appear every now and then in questions, like short response questions, extended response questions. We will perhaps imply the idea of elasticity, but also in multi-choice questions, where we're going to have to perhaps do some calculating. All right, now, with that being said, let's have a quick review. PED, price elasticity of demand. Fill in the gaps. Go. There's only 4 of you in so far. Perhaps the rest of you are still joining the Nearpod. Right, there we go. In you come. All right, have a go. Fill in the blanks. What did PED mean again? There you go. Good work. Keep going. A couple more. Mm-hmm. Have a go, Brandon. Have a go, Kane. Good work. Keep going. Couple more. Eugene, good man. Well done. All right, so a term that needs to be in your glossary, a term that comes up as a definition. You can actually literally be asked to define this particular concept. You can also be asked inside a much more extended response question to understand and explain it. So, price elasticity of demand, or PED, just a little code there. What does it do? It is the measure of a responsiveness, how big the response is, of quantity demanded to a change in the price of the good or service. So how big a response, how big a change does quantity demanded have to a change in the price of a good? PED. We talked the other week about it all being a matter of responsiveness, about how we could describe something as being more elastic and something as being more inelastic. So if it is more elastic, it was going to be more responsive. If it was more inelastic, it was going to be less responsive. Elastic, more responsive. Inelastic, less responsive. Now, because you're doing this mathematically, if we have a look here, all right, and in some technical issues, I've just had an email. Yes, so the mathematical equation here says the percentage change in the quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in the price. All right, so if you do the maths on it, and if we talk about it in the context of the number one, right? Because if you were to imagine, let's pick two percentages. So we'll pick the percentage change in quantity demanded as being 10%, and then the percentage change in the price being 10%. All right. So therefore, 10 divided by 10 equals what?
1.
1. All right. So when we're talking about something being more responsive, we're kind of talking about it being more than proportional or bigger than proportional. Okay. So therefore, it'll be greater than the number 1. All right. If we talk about something being a very small change, then it's going to be less than 1. It's going to be less than proportional, with the smallest change possible, the least change that there is. So how would we define this? We would define this as being the smallest whole number possible. What would the smallest whole number possible be? Come on, math magicians, you know this one.
0.
0, yeah. So the total range of numbers, if you like, that would be possible from here is that it'd have to start from 0, because that's the smallest responsive change. So then if you go from 0 to 1, there's going to be some inelastic changes, some less than proportional changes. And then if you go from 1 up, they're going to be more than proportional, right? Or more elastic. How big could the numbers get? What's the biggest number we know? Well, it's the biggest number we know. Biggest number we know. Kind of looks like the number 8 that's fallen over.
Infinite?
Infinite, yes, indeed. The number 8 that's fallen over, infinite. So there could be an infinite change. It is possible to have an infinite change. So, right, there we go, highly elastic, highly inelastic. And the little thing that we did the other day was to work out a letter of the alphabet. Did we do this? Did we do the alphabet trick the other day? I don't remember. I can't seem to pull up my menu like I normally can. All right, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to stop sharing just for a bit to see if the menu pops back. Maybe the menu is in neat. Infinity, yes, well done, Nisha, well done. No, it is definitely in here. Where is it gone? Oh, if I close that. What about now? Oh, the menu's disappeared. No, okay. Supposed to have a little menu down here that allows me, that gives me little tools, and I'm not entirely sure where the tools are. Okay, all right. Oh no, here we go. Let's try this one. It's in neat. It's not in the nearby. All right, so we're going to do this. So what's going to happen is, very shortly, I'm going to turn this button on. Now, very shortly, in the conversation bit, what do they call it? The chat bit, there should be a link that appears. So if you could jump into the link, and what you will see in front of you magically is a whiteboard. Woo! Isn't that incredible? This technology is just amazing. Then, well, where'd it go? You know, I should be able to still go back to here and present, I think. I might even just present that. Oh, let's see if I can do that. Oh, where's it gone? So you should be seeing this whiteboard now in front of you. Can you all see it? Yep. I see some of you are joining. That's fantastic. Now this is really cool. This sort of technology is quite awesome. I can change the background. I can do all sorts of things. I can have more slides added to it. I can also open it all up so that you can have a play with it as well. So in the future, we're going to do that. But essentially what I wanted to do was this. All right, I'm going to draw 2 letters of the alphabet. Attempt to. You might recognize that one. All right, particularly if your name is McDonald and you have a farm. So, don't worry, Lancelot, I understand. All right, dude, we're all in it together. All right, we're recording the lesson, so you can always catch up on things that you have missed. All right, so jump on the link. There's the 2 letters of the alphabet here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this, and then I can actually type beneath it. So if it is perfectly elastic, all right, it looks like the letter E. Just like that. And then if I put another wee text box over here, if it is perfectly inelastic, it looks like the I. You did get my McDonald farm joke, eh? Because it's E-I-E-I-O. No. Hey, Brandon, good to see you on the whiteboard. Fantastic. All right, now, so perfectly elastic looks like the letter E. Perfectly inelastic looks like the letter I. All right, I should really have drawn that one a little bit better because you have the axis skin in there, don't you? All right. So if we imagine this, then if we, erase this because you don't actually see that, and erase this because you don't actually see that, then that's what you would see. All right. So if you wanted a quick visual reference, quick visual clue as to how to know if it was perfectly elastic or how to know if it was perfectly inelastic, then you just look for the letter. So in the exam, you can see kids, learners, with their arm horizontal, saying this is elastic, and then with their arm vertical, this is inelastic. So it's elastic, inelastic, and they can sit there in the exam going like this, all right, which is quite useful if it's hot. Again, that was a joke, but you can laugh later. All right, now, so what does it mean if it is perfectly elastic? The elastic, it responds instantly and 100% any price change. I'm going to do that with color. Oh, do it blue. Oh, fantastic. Look at that. I can change the color. All right. And I can make them bigger so you can read them. See, this is such cool technology. Oh, and it floats over the top. Fantastic. Perfectly elastic. It responds instantly and 100% to any price change. So you can't even change the price by a little bit. Otherwise, bang, all of your demand changes. Just like that. All right. Whereas if we look at perfectly inelastic, it is completely unresponsive. So no matter what the price, there will be no change. My spelling's not very good. No, I don't want that to, oh, I don't know. Maybe I can go back and change it. Edit. Aha. I'm going to make that one pink. There we go. Move it over here. Make it big. Look at that. If it is perfectly inelastic, it is completely unresponsive. No matter what the price, there will be no change in demand. The price can be 10, the price can be 100, the price can be 1,000. It doesn't matter. People are still going to buy it. So that's what we're talking about. That's the situation that we have if we have these extreme versions of elasticity. And there are, in economics, we're actually going to look at some extreme versions of PED. We're going to discuss products that might have these particular types. We're going to discuss, in the case of perfect elasticity, there is a market model where we're going to see a perfectly elastic response. All right, I'm going to shrink that one down. You've got that. You can chuck that into your notes. You can do screenshotting and all sorts of other things. Oops. Should you wish to do that. Oops. Why is this going all of a funny shape? Here we go. All right, so let's go back to Nearpod. All right, so here we are in Nearpod. That's what we were referring to here. We had a highly elastic. You see it's starting to resemble the letter E. We had a relatively inelastic demand curve starting to look like the letter I. So things that we had to consider, and this first one that we said was the strength of the relationship. So how big that number is. So how close it is to infinity. All right. The bigger that number, the bigger the coefficient, the more elastic the response is. So if it is 2, and then the next one that you calculate is 4, it is basically doubled in its elastic response. We know it's a demand curve, so we know that it's downward sloping, all right, because it's a demand curve, typically downward sloping. So therefore, the price change and the quantity change, they're going to move in opposite direction. So at least one of them is going to have a negative sign on it. Now, we don't need to worry about that necessarily because the coefficient that we end up with is going to be what's called an absolute value. So therefore, it won't have a negative value on it, okay? Because remember, the smallest number is going to be 0. Okay. Now, it does get quite weird, and the further you go into economics, the weirder you're gonna see with regards to this, because you can imagine something that's like 0.0001. You know, I mean, how elastic is that? Yeah, or something that is 0.999999999. Okay, or 1.000000001. Yeah, so there are going to be those sort of odd ones that are really close to extreme levels, but they're kind of not there. All right. Okay, so there will be some quite unusual real life responses that we can discuss. Now, so the terminology that we use, the language that we use, the language the examiner is going to want to see. Is it less responsive, i.e. inelastic? Less responsive, inelastic. Is it more responsive? Then we're going to say it is elastic. Is it exactly proportional? So that 10 over 10, and we would classify that as unitary, right? From the old-fashioned word unit, which meant 1. Right? As in you have 1 unit, All right. Then we are going to introduce ourselves to the determinants. Well, I think we've started this. The determinants of PED. What causes it to be elastic or what causes it to be inelastic? All right, so we discussed this the other day, I feel. All right, we had how differentiated the product was, okay, so how unique it was, the time period involved, all right, so how long is it going to take for you to choose a cheaper alternative, the loyalty, like those loyalty cards, the individual consumers themselves, how loyal they are to the product, how many varieties of the product are actually available, right? Because if there are a lot of varieties available, then you'd expect the consumer to be more elastic in their decision making. Who is actually paying for it? Well, if it's not you personally as the consumer who's paying for the product, you're probably likely to be more inelastic in your decision making about it. Because what do you care? It's not part of your budget. We also discussed that there could be a whole range of substitutes. There could be a large number of other products out there. Maybe we just don't know where they are. All right. And anytime you've figured this sort of thing out, you've perhaps gone online to do a search for a product and found that there are, even go on Shopee and there's 20 different shops all selling the same thing. All right. You have to be able to know what there is available and where to get it and what are the appropriate substitutes and what aren't. This one's from this country and it's got this name, but is that the same as this one? And all of those sorts of things. And with the growth of the internet, we got a lot more of that information available to us. What percentage of your income? So how important is the price of that product in terms of your overall budget? All right. So if the example we used was a box of matches. Okay, and a box of matches is relatively inexpensive in the context of your overall budget. But a house, a car, these sorts of things, they're going to be quite expensive. So they're much more significant in the context of your budget. So therefore, you would expect those to be more elastic, right? Because if there's even a small chance that their price will change, you're going to go, oh, don't know. Okay. And then, of course, the nature of the product itself. It might be that it's a necessity. You have to have it. It might be that it's addictive, in which case, like caffeine, okay? You've got to have it regardless of the price. How much does it cost? Doesn't matter. I'm going to have a less elastic response. So there are 8 determinants of PED, 8 of them. What I want you to do now is to have a go explaining 2 of them. And go. Here we go. Well done, Emma. That's very good. I'm not sure about this one. You might want to rethink that answer there. It's the determinants for price elasticity of demand, those 8 that we've looked at. Yes, good, Harshna. Well done. With the frowning face. Keep having a go. Okay, Lishan, that's good. Yeah, you're on the right path, Iman, but we're wanting price elasticity of demand. Yeah, so we might need to rethink that just a little bit, but you're on the right path. Yeah, you could possibly have been a bit more explaining in that one, Lancelot. Okay, Brandon, Kane, here we go. Good. Yep, you're on the right path. Yeah, you're on the right path. That's really good, Kane. That is. You've actually only done one, however, and I'm after two. But that is exactly right, Kane. All right. Okay. So you've all had a go. That's fantastic. Now a little bit of exam technique, just to throw this one in there because it's good to learn. All right. We've got what's called an exam command term. So command tells you what to do. So this one says explain. All right, so explain is a different type of command word than, say, state or identify. And if you are stating or identifying something, you're just saying it. All right, so, all right, my son's favorite color is red because it's Iron Man. All right, oops, I explained it. My son's favorite color is red. State, done. Explain, why is it his favorite color? It's his favorite color because it's the color of Iron Man. All right, so you can see the difference there, right? So when you're answering, you need to make sure that you pay attention to the command words, and the command words are going to also give you a clue, I mean, other than the fact that it'll have a little number here, as to how many points or marks are going to be allocated to the questions. The reason why I say that is because this is actually, believe it or not, an old exam question. 2 determinants of PED, and usually when they ask it in the context of a particular case study. So 2 determinants of PED for hats, for example, and in which case in your answer you need to talk about hats as well. All right. Now, when they in an exam ask you for 2 things, typically that's a 4-mark question, which means you get 2 marks per. Right, 2 marks per each determinant, which means that you need to have basically it's almost like identify and explain, because you're going to need to say what it is and then have a brief explainer. So for example, if I share this with you, right, Emma's fantastic one, talks about the time involved and then she explains it. So there's 2 marks there, very quickly, very easily. Loyalty card here talks about it. Starbucks, etc. Gives an example and explains it. So again, 2 marks. So that would be 4 out of 4. Quite straightforward. She's even included a real life example here, so that's very helpful for the examiner as well. All right, well done, team. Rock stars. Determinants of PED in real life. Now, if a product is necessity, if it is a necessity, then you have to buy it, right? Regardless of the price. All right, so basic foods, your bread, your rice, your milk, the fuel for your car, right? Some luxury items are less elastic. Okay? So things that you're going to have, so those medicines that you have to survive, right? Those basic, more staple foods is the term we used to use, right? Which doesn't go in your stapler. Part of your all-metal diet. Right, now, what is the demand for petrol? What is likely to happen if the price of petrol goes up, and why will this happen? Do I have a... Yes, here I do. We question about what happens to the demand for petrol, quantity demanded for petrol if the price rises, and why? Why do you think? There you go. This is an application, by the way. Right, remember, Kane, there's another part to the question. Why?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm very sorry I'm late.
No problem, too. I'm recording the lesson, so you'll be able to access what the others have looked at as well. But if you want to just, if you are able just to jump into the Nearpod, the code LNGWR, you can jump in and play along. Okay, you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
All right, just going to push a button. Okay. Good work, team. Good thinking. Well, Lancelot, haven't asked you about the quantity supplied or supply. I've asked you about demand, quantity demanded. Careful to read the question. Hashtag exam technique. Having a go, Brandon? Good thinking. Do about another minute. Oh, good thinking, Alicia. All right. Now, here's where, again, we need to be careful. All right. So what we've got here, we've got the quantity demanded. Now, I've chosen petrol specifically. All right. Or pacifically if we're out in the ocean. All right. I've chosen petrol purposefully because there's one interesting thing about petrol is that it makes your cars go. All right. So therefore, because we need our cars to get to where we're going, we kind of treat petrol as if it's a necessity, right? Even though it's petrol, it's not like we, but it's also obviously in, trucks that deliver things. It's, all of those sorts of ideas. So it kind of becomes a bit of a necessity, right? Okay, the Grab taxi guy who comes and collects you, he needs petrol. So therefore if it's a reputed necessity, even if you don't even consider it a real necessity because you can live without it, then people are going to pay more or less whatever the price for it. And we do see this. We see the price of petrol rising and people still consuming the quantities that they were previously consuming. We actually see that. And a few years back, we had some really big increases in the price of petrol. I don't know if that came to Malaysia, but definitely in New Zealand, the prices of petrol went up dramatically, all right, to the extent where it was hugely expensive to fill up your car. But people were still buying petrol because petrol was seen to be a necessity good. Therefore, the demand for it was much more considered to be inelastic, less responsive to the price change, therefore more like the letter I. All right. Now, it would be kind of cool if you were able to teach someone in your family about elasticity, by the way, because one of the best ways to learn these sorts of terms and theories is to actually attempt to teach someone else. All right. Now, here we go. Now, this might be a bit of a challenge for you. So what we'll do is we will allow you to do this through the chat function because you're possibly not going to want to talk because talking on the video is quite scary. All right. So in the chat function, all right, have a go and let me know whether you think pineapples, tobacco, overseas holidays, obviously at the moment that's a bit of a unusual one. So when I'm talking about tobacco, I'm meaning basically cigarettes, okay? Overseas holidays and textbooks, are they elastic or inelastic? What do you think? So I'm going to stop sharing because you've got that on your screen too and jump back to the meet. Yes, you can rejoin, Eugen. Yes, absolutely. All right, so pineapples, textbooks, overseas holidays, tobacco. Just in the meat, what do you think? Do you think they will be likely to be more elastic or more inelastic? Just in the chat section here. Let us know what you think. Ooh, making you do work, aren't I a monster? Just in the just in the little chat box there. Pineapples, textbooks, tobacco, cigarettes, overseas holidays. Are they more likely to be elastic or inelastic? What do you think? And not all grouped together individually. Be a weird overseas holiday if you took all of those things with you. Good. What about some of the other ones?
Wait, sorry, just to clarify, if it's inelastic, it means no matter how much it's priced, people will still buy it.
If it's perfectly inelastic, yes. If it's inelastic, it's just a relatively inelastic. So it will be a less than proportional.
Okay.
Oh, interesting idea, Alicia. Well done. Good point. Well done, Kane. It's a good idea. Guys are rock stars. Look at what you're doing. Fantastic. It's a good idea. Okay. Well done. Any last thoughts? Give you another maybe 30 seconds, a little bit longer. Work. All right. Okay. So let's go back to the screen. Pineapples, tobacco, overseas holidays, and textbooks. Now, hey, I was being a bit with it. I was trying to dig out the rock stars amongst you, and I was getting it too. It was really fantastic. Right, what happens if you don't like pineapples? You can buy them. There are some people who don't like pineapples. Crazy, I know, but there are. My son doesn't like pineapple. What about overseas holidays? Can everybody go on an overseas holiday? What about textbooks? What if it's a textbook to a class that you don't take? Yeah. See, I was a bit cheeky with this. I was trying to see just how far you could think. Right? I was trying to do the extra for expert sort of idea. Right? You're absolutely right. If it is a product that you need, that is a necessity, like textbooks for your class that you have to have in order, yeah. All right. So when I went to university, we used to get a list of books that we had to buy for that university paper. All right. So for my macroeconomics paper, I think I had about 5 books. That was just for one paper. And then for my econometrics paper, I had about 2 books. All right. So it depended on which paper I had as to which books I needed and how many of them. But I needed to have them. Right? So I had to buy them. Okay. I remember the most expensive one I bought was really expensive. It was over $100 for a textbook, which back then was very expensive, right? And it was also the first textbook I sold because it was very good resale. Okay. But yes, you're absolutely right. It depends. The best answer to all of this is it depends. It depends on whether there is any demand for pineapples at all. It depends on the season. It depends on, whether they are a necessity to you. Tobacco, likewise, as we discussed. If you are addicted, it becomes a necessity, therefore you will pay. But if you're not, then it doesn't matter what the price is, you don't care. You're completely unresponsive to it. Overseas holidays. Well, at the moment, none of us can go overseas for a holiday. So there is no demand at all for overseas holidays. Textbooks, and as you correctly pointed out, okay, we're going to be thinking about which class and whether it is a necessity for that particular class. All right, stopping sharing, jumping back to the meat. There we are, team. Well done. Good work today. Fantastic. Now we're going to continue on in our next lesson looking at price elasticity of demand, but we're going to make a link to why we study it. We're going to do some evaluative thinking with regards to it. We're going to, look more at the types of products that there are with regards to elasticity, inelastic, elastic, that sort of an idea. Now, we don't do a lot about the maths. So again, if that little calculation, if that's something that's going to concern you, please practice it, okay? But there will be some practice that you will be able to do in another week's time, okay? There's a practice question that's loaded and ready to go that will have some questions in it that will be about elasticity, all right? But that's not till next week that will come through. All right, so otherwise, as we'd say so please review the material between now and next lesson, okay, so that we can press on, because next lesson it gets bigger, all right? That's what's going to happen. So yes, otherwise, as we'd say in the land of my birth, hey Corneta, please have a mental break before your next class. All right, it's a mental break, not a breakdown. They're 2 different things. All right, otherwise, as we're saying, goodbye. Have a great day. All right, it's Tuesday. We're one more day into it.
Thank you, Mr. David. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. David.
See you.
Thank you, Mr. David.
Bye. You're right, Jackie. Still in the meat, Jackie.